Ary Rosenbaum here with another fun-filled episode of that 401k podcast. This week's topic, we're going to talk about tips for 401k plan providers. Just some tips out there based on my many, many years of experience. Of course, first things first, go to that 401ksite.com. Further information on all events. Milwaukee, September the 5th. Pretty soon, I do have sign-up pages for the conference, the National Virtual Conference, which will be January 29th through the 30th, 2026. And the website should be updated within the week. Sign up is for free. And for those plan providers that want to participate, pay to participate, or you can certainly pay for a live event and get in for the virtual event for free. We'll look, surprisingly, the baseball schedule is not out for 2026. We'll figure out where we're going to go. I'm looking forward to some cities here and there, and we'll let you know about that. Of course, let's not forget that Full Circle is available out on paperback and Kindle on Amazon.com. The next book should be out sometime in January that I think is going to be called that 401k Plan Provider Marketing Book, or that 401k Marketing Book, something like that. That'll be out in January. Looking forward to that one. It's going to be exclusively about marketing and whatnot, none of that personal life stuff. I think a couple books about that is enough. But for those who want to see, the nonsense that I had to go through in the past in business and life, Full Circle is available. That will probably be the last book I'll talk about personal stuff. I think people are, definitely more interested in having to, expand their practice and whatnot. So let's get to the topic at hand. 15 years ago, started out my own firm, got off that law firm treadmill. I couldn't deal with the overhead, the politics, the billable hours, just none of it. I wanted to practice the way I wanted to practice. And growing up as an attorney for TPAs, I kind of liked working with clients and flat fee billing and all that kind of stuff. And, that's what Full Circle is all about to me, coming back to the core of why, I got into the space. And that was helping plan clients out. And that's been enjoyable. If you're a 401k plan provider, TPA advisor, record keeper, or attorney, there's some tips that I have for you that are straight from the trenches. Number one, know who you're working for. You don't work for the payroll company, the TPA, the advisory company. You work for plan sponsors. And ultimately, your job is to serve the participants. I think a lot of people forget that. That's the compass. And I have seen plan providers lose sight of that. The money's too good, and so they forget about the plan sponsor. They forget about the plan participants, and they try to make money when they're not supposed to. And I've seen a couple plan providers go to federal prison for stealing plan assets. I knew a plan sponsor went to prison for stealing plan assets. People, they have a moral compass, and sometimes they bend it. It should be interesting. I think by the time this podcast will hit, I'll have a blog post speaking about fraudsters and nonsense that I had to deal with. Matt Hutchinson just got a $5 million. He got $5 million worth of taxable income. When you steal money, that's taxable income. Criminals never understand that. If you're involved in illegal drug trade or any other type of business, money coming in, that's income regardless of the source. So you have that to look forward to. But, Matt Hutchinson, there's another guy with a bent moral compass. I think if you lose sight of it and you're no longer protecting the people who matter most, you have a problem. And I think if you have loyalty to, back in the old days, the fund wholesaler who was giving you, New York Giants tickets rather than the plan, participants, the good old days of picking out funds, then you really need a gut check. You got to pick the right side, and the right side is always with the plan sponsor and the plan participants. And there are the tips: stop worshiping big record keepers. Bigger is never going to be better. There are a lot of good small, medium-sized record keepers out there that offer better tech and better service. I think it's important for plan providers not to be overwhelmed by a website and look at, plan design and competency and all that kind of stuff. Next, educate. Don't overwhelm plan sponsors and plan participants. Advisors and TPAs often make, the mistake of quantity for quality. More charts, more acronyms, more disclaimers. But if you're confusing the client, you're going to confuse the plan participants, and you are not, going to help. They're not going to trust your advice. I always talk about working for an attorney at the same firm that Lisa Gomez worked for. I did that for about 10 months, and, working till 2, 3 in the morning because the partner was taking her time getting to me. But, probably the smartest ERISA attorney I've ever met. But I think she overwhelmed clients with legalese that they couldn't understand what she was trying to say. And I have the opposite problem. I always try to break things down in English, and that's why people like my stuff. I think, simplicity in my belief is that simplicity builds trust, and more importantly, simplicity creates action. A well-informed plan sponsor is far more likely to implement smart features like auto-enrollment or rebalancing and whatnot. So I think that, I come from the school of less is more, and, don't overwhelm them with too much information. Don't overwhelm them with 3 different large cap, stock funds. Next, fees aren't the problem. Obscurity is. No one ever got sued for paying a reasonable fee, but plenty of plan sponsors have gone into hot water for not understanding what they're paying. I think it's important to use a flat fee model when possible. You got to avoid rev share and all that kind of stuff, and disclose everything. Hide nothing. Fee transparency isn't just compliance, it's all about credibility. What matters in this business is your credibility. When you are clear and transparent with everybody, you show your clients that you're on their side. To me, I always believe being honest with the client up front, that's what you have to do. Disclose everything, disclose everything out there. You're not, developing the secret formula Coke. Just give it out there. And it's important to document everything. Advice documented is advice that doesn't exist. Reminds me of the IRS. If you don't have a gust restatement, they treat it as if you never restated it at all. If you recommend a design change to a plan sponsor or a fund change, document it. If your client makes a fiduciary decision, advise them to record it in meeting minutes. It's not just about CYA, it's about showing you're doing your job. In fact, documentation is often the difference between an inquiry and an audit. It's not paranoia, it's professional discipline, and it will save your clients and your own reputation more times than you can count. Next, solo 401k. Again, that's part of that business where I think that, it's a great option for a lot of, sole proprietors out there. I think it's a lot better than a SEP in my opinion. But they're really misunderstood. Plan sponsors just get that free boilerplate document and they forget about it. They don't restate the plan document. They don't do 5,500 filings when they have 250K or more. And they don't understand that the plan no longer functions for them if they hire employees. Right now, I have a potential client that, set up a solo 401k 7 years ago and did cover to 2 employees. If you're in the practice of serving solo plan sponsors, educate them. The IRS won't care that they didn't know, and you as the plan provider are often their only resource. You don't have to handhold, but you do have to speak up before their solo plan becomes a non-compliant mess. Next, don't be afraid to say no. Being a plan provider out there doesn't mean saying yes to everything. Sometimes I joke, in the family, I'm Dr. No. I will be the ones that have to say no on doing things. But, I think being a professional means that, you can say when things are a bad idea, and you should say when things are a bad idea. If a client wants to stretch eligibility or manipulate vesting in a way that invites compliance issues, speak up. You're not a vendor, you're a fiduciary partner. And like when saying no isn't a risk, it's a responsibility. And it often earns you more respect than the advisor who nods through every bad decision. Next, I think it's important not to forget the human side. We in this business, we deal with a lot of numbers, forms, and a whole host of deadlines, but we also deal with people. That plan sponsor who's frustrated might be dealing with layoffs. The TPA who's behind might be covering for a sick colleague. Empathy matters, and I think that that's one of the things that you can't teach. You either have empathy for other people or you don't. The world doesn't revolve around you. Other things happen. Right now I got an email to a client who said they were going to pay me. And, when he said he's going to take a month to pay me, I already know that this is going to be a problem. But I have to treat it as if he has some sort of situation or whatnot. People are human beings. Retirement isn't just about assets, it's about lives. And lives matter. People matter. Keep that in focus and your service will get better. And again, that always goes back to my idea of game theory that, I try to think what other people are thinking. And understand that what I say has ramifications and may get a different kind of response. If you keep it in focus and your service will get better, when we forget the human side, we lose the heart of this business. And that's when everything starts to look transactional instead of transformational. Next, ERISA attorneys know what you're signing. Too many plain documents are signed off by attorneys who don't understand the language. A poorly defined compensation term or a botched eligibility rule is just a typo. It's a compliance landmine. If you're in this space, know the rules, and you don't delegate your ethics to a bundled provider's legal team. Your signature means everything. Don't let into a plain document unless you've read every line and understand the implications. If you're not doing that, you're not practicing ERISA law, you're rubber stamping liability. And be careful who you work with. I'm always, I was always careful. Then I met Matt Hutchinson, and ever since then I've been more careful. Matt Hutchinson was somebody who came in from nowhere, and he was on Frontline, and he was the big fiduciary wow guy who testified in front of Congress. But I think if you did a little bit more research, you would see that he came out from the middle of nowhere. And so I think it's important as an ERISA attorney to be more vigilant. And ever since the Matt Hutchinson thing blew up, and I want to say 2012 or 2013, I've certainly been more vigilant. Next, it's important to come back to purpose. The industry can be very, very tiring at times. The professionals who last and the ones who matter never forget why we're here to help people retire with dignity. That means challenging bad practices. That means prioritizing participant. That means showing up even when it's inconvenient. When you find yourself frustrated by our bureaucracy or buried in minutia, take a breath and remember this isn't just business, it's someone's future. The final thought: be the professional that they deserve. I mean, keep fighting, keep learning, keep, standing up for what's right, even when no one is watching. I always say that I'm the last Boy Scout. I just take up, a lot of times, hopeless causes, like in my village, calling out the nepotism and the nonsense that goes on in my school district. Always fight the good fight. And fighting the good fight costs you. My honesty, in my opinion, or the fact that I won't edit my opinion at times, has rubbed people the wrong way. I get that, but that's not me. I've always been the guy who's going to raise a ruckus when ruckuses need to be raised. So, I always say to be on the side of good, to be on the right side of things, and things will be okay. Don't be the TPA that's going to charge you. Don't be a TPA going to charge somebody $80,000 because you got fired and you got paid for that 5,500, but you want to hit them with another charge. Always fight on the right side of things, and things will work out. That's how I see it. So, we got a truncated episode, I guess, this week of that 401k podcast. We didn't meet 20 minutes. We're like 15 and change, but I said what I needed to say. Again, go to that 401ksite.com. Further information on all our live and virtual events. And that 401k Natural Virtual Conference for the 29th and 30th of January. If you got the emails, you know the website to sign up is up. That 401ksite.com very soon will be updated with more information on the event. And Milwaukee's coming up, and I hope you tune in next week for another fun-filled episode of that 401k podcast. Take care. Bye.